Howdy guys, John from Adelaide RV. Today we're talking about our two styles of panelling that we do on our Supreme and Leader caravan range. Now we'll get into a little bit further about the composite panel that our Goldstreams do in a different video, but today we're going to be talking about our traditional corrugated style cladding and our composite sheet panelling. Alrighty guys, we're going to start off with your traditional corrugated cladding. This is a 1mm thick corrugation for strength, more your traditional design that we do on our vans. So essentially you'll see this on a lot of older vans. A lot of your newer ones are going towards the flat panel, which we'll get to in a second, but I'm going to run you through some of the benefits of running this setup over that. So not only is it a lighter panel over the 3mm thick composite sheeting, but it also is easier to repair aftermarket if you get any damages to it. So I like the idea of if you have a car and you get a dent in your vehicle, it's going to stand out because it's a flat panel, sun shines on it, it's going to stand out. Benefit of this, if you get a dent in this, it sits in the sun, you're not going to see it. It's not going to be as noticeable as what you would on the flat panel setups. Not only that, this is a 300mm sheet. So if I get a scratch or dent in this part of the van, I don't need to rip the whole wall off just to get to this one sheet. I can build it and do what I need to do from this section only. So on a timber frame, easy to get to, simple, easy design on the sense of replacement on a panel. Now, the reason why we still stick to a timber frame, which allows us to put the aluminium cladding on the front of it, is it's a double fixture. So I can countersink into the timber on the frame itself, and I can put a flat skin over the top without any screws protruding through that. If you chuck a GoPro in your caravan while you're traveling, you actually see that the internal of the van twists and moves. The important thing around the timber frames is it allows that flexibility. If you're hitting corrugations or you're hitting down like the Strzelecki or the Gibb River, it's really important that the frame itself has that flexibility to allow for that sort of traveling styles. If I'm twisting and bending when I'm traveling on the road, I've got the benefits of the cabinetry being double fixed. Therefore, they're not going to fall off and end up on the ground. Other brands, other styles of paneling doesn't have that flexibility. So the points of weakness on those tend to be the framing, the J-molds, parts that actually connect the frame together. They're the parts that are actually going to let go if there's no twist and movement. And we'll actually show you on another video what we've done to compensate that on your different styles of paneling. So we'll get into that on another setup. When you're coming in to choose your color selections with Adelaide RV, or if you're purchasing a caravan anywhere else in Australia, little things to consider and reason to still stick to your traditional cladding over your flat panel setup is it's actually a lighter setup. Now with this setup here, it's a 1mm thick, as I mentioned earlier before, over your 3mm thick. So this section here is about 11 kilos lighter per linear square meter than your flat panel setup. Therefore, if you're really conscious around weight, a van this size, which is about 21'6", will save you close to 70 kilos of weight. And that's a big factor when you're looking at all those little weights transferring between the van and the car. And to tie it all up, essentially, the main reason to select this cladding here over your flat panel setups is purely down to the weight saving properties of it. 70 kilos on a big van, that's 2 cartons of beer extra, that's a whole tank of water, all these things that you need to consider when you're traveling around on Australia's roads. What's most important to you? So when you're coming in to select your colors, factor all this sort of stuff in. It's obviously important. Same insulation properties, so you're not going to worry about that if you're heading up north where it's a bit hotter. You don't need to worry about this insulation wise. It may make a degree difference. It's not a huge game changer. So eliminate that side out of your mind of being a insulating property, more down to the weight saving side. So if I can save you a little bit of stress there. Now we're going to jump over to the composite sheet. Rightio guys, we're jumping over to your composite sheet panel. So also known as composite panel, but we're talking around the reference of composite sheet, right? This is a 3mm thick setup. So it's a aluminium, rubber, aluminium compound. So it's a little bit more impact resistant than your normal traditional cladding that I spoke to you about. Having this style paneling, it's a little bit more modern. So you're going to get that feel of having a more modern van, different color selections. So you're actually going to have a huge range of color selections in the flat panel over the traditional setup. So if that's a very important thing to you, then this might be the way you're going to go. Obviously benefits and negatives to both sides. So this paneling here, as I mentioned earlier, is actually 11 kilograms heavier per linear meter. So again, if you're factoring these weights into your towing experience, this paneling might just push your towing over the limit. So big consideration around that. Other flip side is it is more impact resistant. So if you're in areas where you're more prone to hail, if you're going to be taking it down trails where you know you're going to get stone flick up from your car, then this style of cladding might be more beneficial for your style of travel. On this van, you can see that we've actually got a higher checker plate. Now this is an off-road van. Your more traditional semi-off-roads will have a slightly lower checker plate, but this is going to give you more guarding anyway. So benefits around the flat panel as well is purely around the seal of all your joins, your door, your windows, picnic tables, all that sort of stuff. When you're sealing into your van, you'll see here there's no gap between the wall and the window. So your silicone, your foam, it's much more compressed over your aluminium traditional cladding. Now don't stress, there's plenty of silicone behind the windows, so you're not going to have any leaks in that sense. But just for those people that have that extra concern, this will sandwich a little bit better onto this paneling over your traditional style. So the most important thing when you're looking at a flat panel composite sheet setup with a frame and you're planning to hit a little bit more corrugated roads, the strength that you get out of that timber frame, the twisting and flexing that I mentioned earlier, we put purposely built stress joints into our flat panel setups to allow for that flexibility. They need to have an expansion joint so that you don't get any stress through the side of the van. With a one-piece panel, no stress points here, a lot of that pressure goes up through to the sides of the van and that could cause issues. So we put these purposely built composite panel joins in here to allow for that flexibility of the panel and the timber frame to work together and allow for you to hit those corrugated roads, the beaches, the rivers, the general traveling styles that you obviously want to hit when you're going around Australia's roads. A little flip side to this composite sheeting is if you do get a ding, a scratch, or anything on the side of the van, which it does happen, you can't control that. Now the repairs on this is a little bit more intricate. If I have to replace a panel, it's not like replacing a full wall. I can just take out this panel here, but it's a little bit more intrusive. So if you do get an insurance job or anything like that, just be aware that this may take a little bit longer to do the repairs than your traditional cladding. Not that it's something you should be thinking about all the time, but it is something to factor in if you do live in your van or if you're traveling Australia's roads for a permanent amount of time. That sort of thing should be in consideration because getting back into your van is obviously the most important thing on that side. So a little bit more intrusive. When we take the paneling off, we remove all your fittings, we take the panel sheet off, we can actually do this section here. So it is just a slap-in sheet, but it's a little bit more intrusive than your traditional setup. So when you're selecting your colors here down at Adelaide RV or wherever you're purchasing your caravan, when you're selecting this traditional cladding, everyone thinks that this is on all sides of the caravan. Now what we do is we actually put the composite sheet on the front of the vans. That's your impact points. That's where you're going to get your stone chips, your flicking up of rocks. We've got a high checker plate and the composite sheeting there for that purpose. So it's only going to be the sides that you're actually looking at that are going to be this traditional setup. You park out in the garage, you can have the front section still out and you've got the flat paneling across the front and the back of the van, your two impact points. So when you're looking at these claddings, you still will have that composite sheet where you need it the most. It's purely down on weight saving on the sides of the van that we keep the sides on the traditional setup. So there we go, guys. We have your traditional cladding and your composite sheet paneling on our Supreme and Leader caravan range. As I said, we will get you to the sandwich panel fixtures on our Gold Trim setup in another video. So hold your horses on that one, but we will get to it. Coming from a workshop background, guys, I've had 7 years rebuilding caravans for Adelaide RV. So these sorts of things are things you need to consider when you're coming down to select your colors. There's no cost difference. A lot of other places charge you for the composite sheeting. At Adelaide RV and Supreme and Leader, we actually do this as a no cost option. It purely just comes down to your weights and your desires. So if you prefer the traditional side, which I actually love this style cladding and will put it on my own personal van, or if you look for something a little bit more modern looking and easy to clean, then jump into this style. But we've got plenty of color selections down here at Adelaide RVs, so it just comes down to what you prefer. That's all for now, guys. I'll see you on the next video around the composite panel.